Okay, we have a one Q&A. Okay, so the first question is from Cass on the webinar. The question is, where did the logo come from? Does it mean anything special? Yes, definitely. So actually, the logos, the idea mainly come from our founder Yan Bo. So there are two meanings. Number one is really, he was studying fractals before the cellular automata. So this fractals is like using small, repeating small kind of patterns recursively, and then you build a very complex shape. So three petals is from fractals. That's number one. Number two is also kind of represent the cellular automata. So like you can have small cells make decisions with its neighbors. I think there's even maybe more in the later on, because we're talking about three foundations of the internet. You have compute, storage, and network. We are one of them, right? So if you look at it, I think you can come up with three different reasons why. Okay, so that's done. Let's recap some of the questions we have. The AMA with the Binance community. Yeah.
Oh, we got another one.
Do you want to take it?
Yeah. So we have some documentation to use the platform as a programmer, and we are actually writing more, but I can send you some GitHub links. Oh, well, there are quite a lot. But basically, if you want to start building the apps, you will probably want to start with NKN client JS. Where can I send? Can I send in a Zoom?
Yeah, Zoom you can send in the chat to everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this should be a good start. And after you are familiar with NKN client, you might want to migrate to NKN multi-client, which is much more reliable and has higher performance if you are not sending a lot of traffic. So basically, using this NKN client, you can start building a decentralized, for example, the messenger or something like that in quite a few minutes, because it just takes a few lines of code to embed NKN client into your application. Actually, I can send you the game first.
Even we also have this developer portal, right? So
yeah, but the doc, actually, I have a more updated version, but it's not committed. It's not submitted to Git yet. Yeah, there are a lot of information missing at the moment.
Right.
So this T-Rex runner game. So you can see that it's extracted from the Chrome T-Rex runner game, and actually use less than a day to embed NKN client into this game to make it from a single player to multiplayer version, and it's using NKN's PubSub to do like player discovery and match, and use NKN client to send real-time like user action between players, so that you can see your opponent's like action and render it on your local browser. So yeah, it's pretty easy to use it if you are familiar with JavaScript. And we also have quite a few other like SDKs in multiple language, like in Go, in Java, in quite a few. But yeah, and we also have a pretty large developer community on Discord. I can send you the link later. But basically, we've got quite a lot of people building awesome applications there. We have dchat. It's built by Ling, a developer also on Discord, and we actually use it every day now for quite a lot of our internal discussion. And as there's like a NLove and NKN Hotel and like Space Cat, which they all built by community member in the Discord group. So let me send you the link now.
So Alan, do you see any other questions?
No, there's no questions on our YouTube right now.
I'll recap some of the main questions from the Binance AMAs. So one of the questions, there's lots of interest in this recent announcement, the commercial agreement with Netnik, right? So I think Netnik is a very large company. They are like the independent cloud integrator for many like enterprise customers. They have like 100,000 enterprise customers. So CDN is one of the services they provide to their customers. So we'll become their CDN partner to provide the CDN service. So that's really a big win for us, because I think they have lots of good customers, and they also have lots of needs for the CDN. So that's proof that our CDN actually is commercial grade and can be used in real life. So I think some of you might already know that both our official website, NKN.org, as well as the API part of the NKNX.org, they already run on the NCDN. And we are doing the commercial trial with the Chinese YouTube. That's also ongoing and running real traffic for them. They really have lots of demand. So the good news is really, so the Chinese YouTube have so much traffic they need to distribute. So as much as capacity we can come up, they will eat it. So that's kind of really good news. We are still, because our mainnet launch during the July and August, we have lots of kind of hardening and iteration. So that kind of slowed down our commercial trial a little bit. So we are going to scale up again during the fourth quarter and with that commercial trial. So in order to make it a larger scale and carry more traffic for that Chinese YouTube as well. So those are kind of very exciting movements in China. So we definitely have a very good traction there, and it's a commercial contract. And then if you look at the rest of the world, I think we are having some good tractions in the US as well. So also in the video streaming service space. So in the US and Europe, the competition is more fierce, because on the very kind of expensive high end, you have Akamai and Amazon, and then you have the kind of more competitive low cost side. You have the Cloudflare, which is the newer challenger. But I think we still have lots of opportunities, because the video streaming and esports and all the live events are really increasing a lot. So I think demand is definitely there. We need to ramp up our capability to meet those needs. So that's kind of one of the recap of a popular question from the Binance to the AMA. Let's think what else. So Alan, do you remember any other?
Yeah, I actually have.
There's another one. So almost everybody asks us, what's the 2 reasons, or what are the reasons why we need, they want to vote for NKN instead of VIDI? Mm-hmm. So I think it's actually quite simple. I think there are 2 points. One is we are the largest blockchain network in the world, right? So we are overtaking already Bitcoin and also Ethereum in terms of full consensus nodes. We're 16,000 today compared to 10,000 Bitcoin has. That's one thing. So, and we are on our way to build even more nodes for servicing the entire globe. So that's number 1. Number 2 is we really have lots of good services, lots of existing products that are actually addressing a very large or fast-growing market. So take an example of the CDN. So that's really a 12 billion or even more market in US alone, and about the same or even bigger in China and India. And they are growing at 12% a year. So double-digit growth is really rare in today's such a large. And so we are really addressing that market, and we have really good competitive advantage in terms of the lower price, more dynamic and more scalable and higher throughput, and also closer to the content we're delivering. So that's one. And the other one is really, if you look at the kind of network industry as a whole, it's 1.4 trillion business, right? So the CDN product is just one first step toward addressing that market. But I think we can get much larger chunk of that 1.4 trillion market. So, and our product is on our way to be adopted in a massive scale. So that's kind of 2 reasons I think we kind of saying why NKN is the better choice in this vote. And yeah.
So we actually have 2 questions right now. I have one actually from our Telegram group, and then we have one from Q&A. Okay. So let's start with the Telegram one, because this kind of matches what you were talking about with NetNick. Mm-hmm. So the question is, how does the partnership with NetNick and the fact that you will provide CDN to them and their customers affect NKN's token price? Will they need NKN tokens to use the network?
So this is actually quite easy. So Netnick is a traditional company, right? They're not going to touch NKN token. So they will pay us RMB or fiat, right? So by month, depending on how much traffic we deliver for them. So we in turn will convert those, we'll buy back the NKN tokens using those fiat, and then send those tokens to the miners depending on their contribution. So that's the reason we'll have a kind of a nice cycle of the for the tokens. So there will be a constant kind of buying cycle for the NKN tokens that will be used to distribute to the miners.
And the next question I got is from Tom. So Tom says, do you envision most of your clients to be Chinese based initially, as the competition is less severe there? Also, good work over the last couple of days, chaps. Hard work paying off.
Yeah, first of all, I think it's really tough. I mean, it's like a running marathon, but each individual hour is a sprint itself. So it's like a combination marathon sprint. But I think because we really put a lot of effort in it, I think we get a lot of good response, right? So I'm not kind of trying to bash competition, but for the AMAs, we typically send in all 4 founding members and the core team. And the other project probably send 1 or 2 person, maybe 1. So in terms of kind of response and how fast we can respond to all the community questions, I think we probably have much better traction in terms of with the Binance community. So I think the effort we put in, even though we are a little bit tired, but I think it's well worth it. And that's also the reason why Yanbo have to take a little bit rest today, not in this AMA, but he will get more energy for tomorrow, because tomorrow is a real battle day, not only to win the votes, right? So we will go out and vote ourselves. We will talk to all the VCs we know. We talk to all the projects who have BNB and who are supporting us. So we'll try to get those kind of larger chunk of the votes for us to convince them to vote for NKN. And of course, by working with all the AMAs, I think we are working, try to convince more communities and more international groups to vote for us as well. So I hope our NKN core group, the core holders, you have been waiting for so long. So we have one more battle day to do, and let's go all out and to win this battle. So that's about the work and ahead. Now back to the question from Tom. So Tom, thank you for being so active in the Telegram. I think without you, it will be very quiet for some of the days. I mean, these days are very popular, very buzzy. So it's okay. So in terms of the clients in Chinese space or elsewhere, I don't think it will be Chinese only. The main reason is we started the business development early on in China, and also we have the right connection from our BD team there. So that's the reason we make a really good inroad very early on. But I think lots of these can be replicated in the rest of the world. And also we actually also have good business development traction in the US as well. So we are going to announce later, but we actually put together a very good advisory board. So it's not a crypto advisory board. It's a typical kind of startup advisory board with industry heavyweights. So one of them is the ex-CEO of Nokia, so Jose Moin. He joined NKN as one of the advisors, and so he's actually advising us to work with carriers and work with some of the content providers. So I think we will have, that's one of them. And we also have another person who is actually used to be a senior director of products for Akamai, the leading CDN company. So we'll announce them later. But those kind of key industry players are really helping us open doors in the US and Europe, because those are the areas we have lots of connections from the advisors we have, industry advisors. And in terms of the developing world, I think the China model will work well. Like we just had a chat in the Binance India community. I think they do believe that the mobile video in India will be a big market. And I think some of the things we're doing in China will have lots of kind of similar effects in India as well. We just need to kind of scale from one customer to another. We want to have 1 or 2 successful and happy customer, and they will help us to market to the next level. Instead of we start too many and we cannot serve them all very well. So that's our strategy in terms of customers.
Okay. So so we have some questions from our YouTube.
Okay.
Okay. The first one is, how does NKN deal with the issue of illegal content being relayed through nodes? Can nodes prevent this from happening in any way? And would this content be traceable back to them?
Oh, Okay, that's a familiar one. Yeah. So yeah, actually, so technically, it's kind of impossible to see the content of message that NKN network is transmitting unless you have the private key of the sender or the receiver. So basically, unless the sender or the receiver wants to disclose the packet, and there is no one in the world that can see through the content. This is because all the content are end-to-end encrypted, and more importantly, NKN address has a scheme such that the public key is part of the NKN address. So basically, well, you know, in the current internet, when you send a packet, the public key is not part of the address. So you have to kind of do the key exchange separately and the encryption using the shared key and do whatever things. Then there is a possibility that the key exchange is compromised and the content is leaked by like third party. But in NKN, when you want to send a packet to a receiver, you already know it's public key. So it's impossible for the middleman to attack this process. So, and the cryptography theory guarantees that only the people who has either the private key of the sender or the receiver can actually decrypt the content. So yeah, no one in the middle can technically see the content. So that's why we wouldn't consider this as a like problem, because the relayer wouldn't know in any way that what the content they're actually relaying. And it's also impossible for, well, I would say this is like very unlikely for people to track back to the relayer, because there's no such like, for example, IP address or similar information tracked on chain or anywhere about the relay message. Yeah.
Great, great. This question is, actually, I'm going to drop down here because this one will be for you too. Can NKN be a VPN service? The whole network really needs privacy on the internet.
So I think there are some, we have some community members who have used NKN to build a VPN service. But I think this is not kind of our main use case right now, because we are really focusing on our flagship products and the CDN content delivery. I think this one have the most market traction, and we are really focusing on that right now.
Yep, yep. Here's another one from Daniel. Is a NKN node in a location with less network coverage going to earn more? I think that one's for you.
Okay, so yeah, I can take this one. So there are two factors here. So basically, the relay reward, there are two factors affecting the relay reward. The one is how many clients you are connecting to, or the second is that how many packets your neighbor node will relay to you. So basically, in order to improve the client connection, it's better to locate the node in the place where there are more clients, right? Because when the client is clever, he can like try multiple times to and choose a node that is closer to him. So that's one factor. But another factor is that if you put a node in an area where the inter-node connection is bad, then other nodes will be less likely to send relay or forward packet to you. Then you will get less mining reward. So it's a bit more complicated, and in reality, it's a mixture of these two factors that actually determines what kind of mining reward you get. Well, but in short, for both factors, having a better internet would benefit you because no matter client or like a node, they will choose the next hub that has the lowest latency in order to have better performance.
Great, great. Here's another one. Does bandwidth affect the node speed?
Currently, it has very little effect because currently there are not much traffic in the network, so bandwidth is not a bottleneck. But when there are a lot and bandwidth becomes a bottleneck for some nodes, then for those nodes, improving their like bandwidth will indeed improve their like mining profitability. But currently, it might not play an important role at this stage. Yeah.
and one more from our YouTube, and then we're going to switch back over because we have a question from our Zoom audience. So how long will NKN continue its commercial trials of video content distribution?
Yeah, I think this video content distribution trial is going on for quite long, because I think this is one of the largest kind of video platform in China. So they really have very strict kind of technical and also commercial requirements. So, and also I think part of the reason is also because our own, right? Because we launched our mainnet in July. So basically, if you remember, July, August, and September, we have been really busy doing lots of iterations and really hardening the mainnet. Doing the scalability improvements and reducing the resource use for the mining nodes. So there's tons of work in the last 3 months. So that's the reason kind of we didn't have as much bandwidth to put on the commercial trial as before the summer. So that's the reason we can re-energize our trial in the fourth quarter of this year. I mean, the next 3 months. So we are ramping up more trial nodes for this content delivery for the video platform. So I think then once we get to a certain scale and they can actually test thoroughly, and then we can move on to the next stage. So that's kind of what's in China, but we're not stopping there. So for the NCDN, actually, Elon and the development team already built a kind of we call self-service portal, and together with Alan on the product side. So the self-service portal is basically let any kind of small website or content owner to just sign up with NCDN service without any human interaction. So they can pay by either credit card or NKN or something like that. And then they can get acceleration for their website or their content. So this one is already doing internal testing and also with some friendly customers. So we hope to open it up during the Q4 as well. Then I think we can enable many more kind of smaller websites and smaller content provider to try it for themselves, right? So, and the business model will be like a freemium, which we have 3 tiers. So number 1 is free. If your total traffic per month is under particular limit, it's totally free to try. So it enables people to try without any signing up or reaching an agreement. And the second tier, third tier, they pay per month. So that 2 things combined. So on the bigger customer side, we'll do more kind of customized or individual kind of interaction. For the massive amount of kind of small website and content providers and developer, we have self-service. So these combined, I think we should be able to scale pretty nicely and toward the end of the year and the next year.
Great. So we got a question from our Zoom audience. This is from Mutsi.
Yeah, Mutsi is actually quite famous because Mutsi and Tom, they have lots of kind of conversation in our Telegram groups and make it very chatty and they're very buzzy in our Telegram. And Mutsi is also the developer who is working on a social game called the NKN Hotel. So I'll wait for him to unveil to the world anytime soon. So Mutsi
also. Yeah.
Let me repeat the question for the audience because Elon, you go first. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I just want to add that he's also the one who proposed like using a mini proof of work to prevent the generated ID spamming attack.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Mutsi, for this good suggestion to prevent the attacks, the spamming attacks. So now to Mutsi's question, I'll repeat it for the audience. Do you think fees are being introduced due to the scarcity of IPv4 address by cloud providers such as Google in 2020, that this will be a risk for the size of the current network, or perhaps if the network recover from this, that it will actually improve the economics for players that do not game the IP system? So Elon, do you want to start with the technical side, and I'll talk a little bit about economic side?
Yeah, sure. So I would say that we wouldn't consider it as a problem. But we will consider it as opportunity. So let's first take a look at the node side. So currently the IP address, the fee is basically 0 on all platforms. So, but even if it's like charging a fee, let's say the next year or next 3 years, then it's still just a tiny portion of all the node cost, even given that there are not much traffic in the network. So so for example, if I remember correctly, Google will charge you around like $1 per month for the public IPv4 address, which would be probably 20% of the cost. assuming no traffic in the network. But in reality, there were like some traffic in the network, and the bandwidth will always cost you something. And as the network grows like larger and with more bandwidth coming in, with more traffic coming in, then the bandwidth will probably play a more important role in like the cost calculation. So I wouldn't say that the IP address cost is a like significant factor in terms of the node cost. But it's I mentioned it's an opportunity because for our client side, it's actually a good thing or for NKN because it brings the advantage of NKN client. So typically, or I'll say traditionally, if A wants to talk to B through the network layer, then B should be publicly accessible, right? Have a public IP address or have a port forwarding, just like an NKN node now. But if both of them are using NKN client, then one of the advantages is that both of them can hide behind a firewall or does not have a like public IP address at all. But if public IP address becomes like more rare and uncommon, then advantage of NKN client becomes like more significant, and that might be like opportunity here.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
so I think also from economic side of view, I think yeah, I think there won't be a big deterrent, but I think it's at least give some additional kind of cost, right? If you want to ramp up lots of nodes. And also, I think the IPv4 address also, the scarcity is also not evenly distributed. I think some areas don't have this problem, some areas do. So that will impact the kind of geographical distribution a bit as well. We'll have to see how it plays out.
So we have another question.
Yeah, we got another question here from Tom. So Tom says, you've mentioned a hardware vendor partnership recently. Are you able to say whether this is the integration of NKN into an existing product, such as a router, or is this a standalone node which can be bought off the shelf? And if it is the former, would you ever plan for a standalone node to be available? A custom Raspberry Pi type PCB that is designed solely for relay that non-techs can set up at home?
Yeah, I think we can say that actually it's a quite large network hard disk provider in China. So they have, so we actually kind of co-building a special firmware with NKN built-in. Not only the NKN itself, but also for the its technical term, the Docker system. So we can actually run NCDN and other kind of services in it. Because it's a good fit, right? So first of all, it actually have lots of hard disk. It's a network disk, so it's perfect for content distribution. And secondly, the CPU and the graphic card, the graphic units are decent, so they actually can do quite a bit of work for the NKN node. So that's what we are doing. So when you talk about building our dedicated node, like a special Raspberry Pi or like I don't know, this Holo chain did this Holo port, right? Specialized hardware. We think it might be a little bit too much effort. The reason is we want to start with a software-only solution, and we work with partners. The partners help us to build the firmware, for example, in this network disk or Wi-Fi router. But to make a NKN branded and NKN own developed special hardware, you need lots of upfront cost, right? And that will make the mining economy a little bit more difficult, because if you have to pay $200 to buy a mining node, and then you have to worry about how to get the money back, so you have more pressure on the kind of how much mining reward you get. But if you already have a device you're already using at home, like I need this network disk for storing my home photos and videos and stuff like that, right? But in the meantime, you have a secure and isolated environment. You can run NKN and stuff like that. And that makes sense, because for you, the cost is almost zero. So that's kind of my take. There's another twist. So not so long ago, Alan and I have been chatting about, say, maybe we should start a kind of Kickstarter program, or some of the community members like you can do a Kickstarter program. Say, let's build an NKN miner, right? And then you can find a inexpensive but still powerful enough hardware, and then integrate with some kind of NKN software, plus some kind of convenience features like graphic UI. We already have that, right? And you can put something extra there. And then you can get the funding up front. You probably can cover your cost of manufacturing and also procurement. That might be another way to do it, right? But I think for now, I think the team is so much focused on getting the software ready and serving the big customers. So we are not venturing to the hardware yet.
No, great answer. So let's get into some more fun stuff. So how about this one? This is actually from our YouTube channel. This is Crypto Evolution. What's NKN's goal for 2020?
So we have a 12-month plan in our roadmap. So in our roadmap, so we have 2 tracks. So the one track is technical. So that's mostly about our mainnet, because this public chain is the fundamental infrastructure, right? And the other track is commercial and productization. So I think both track is very important for the project. On the technical side, I will let Elon talk about the milestones for the next 12 months. And on the commercial and product side, I think each quarter we'll launch one product or one major kind of initiative. So the first product to launch is the NCDN, the content delivery. I think we are already kind of launched because we signed the commercial agreement with Netnic, and also we are continuing with the commercial trial with the Chinese YouTube, and also a few other customers in the US and Europe. So that's kind of launched, but we want to see revenue coming, right? So that's one. And the next one will be the PubSub. So the PubSub is more like real-time messaging, and that can be used for chat or IoT data or real-time price information like cryptocurrency information. So the PubSub is a product not for consumers, but for developers. So for that product, I think we will have a more freemium model. So that will take a little bit longer time to take off, but I think we want to have lots of adoption, because the key is, in the end, lots of the application will use NKN stack built in, while people don't even know that's actually NKN inside, right? So that's kind of the really good scenario. Like, for example, the T-Rex Run game by Elon, and also the NKN Hotel by Mutsi, and the D-Chat by Lin, and also a few other applications. They use NKN underneath, but as a user, you typically don't really even notice it's run over NKN. So I think that's kind of beauty of the DF space, right? So that's the PubSub, the second product. The third product is Tuna. So the Tuna is more a tunneling service that enable any computer to sell kind of to host a software service and sell that to other person. So one of the kind of initial example is the video game streaming, like the Google Stadia. So I think I remember Tom mentioned he has a few computers with a really beefy graphic card. So they are kind of idle. So what you can do is really resell that capacity to Elon, who like to play Dota 3 or Dota 2 and other games, but he might not have a powerful game PC right in front of him when he's traveling in Beijing, for example. Right. So those are kind of the use cases Tuna will have, and of course web acceleration, proxy, and etc. They also use case for Tuna. So those are the kind of the 3 major products we are coming up in the next 12 months, and we do it in a phased way because we're a small company. We have to have focus at any time, and we want to generate revenue, and the revenue will sustain the next product development, and then one by one, each of them will grow at their own rate. So that's our plan for the next 12 months in terms of products and commercial. And how about Elon, about the technology side for the mainnet?
Yeah, for the like NKN blockchain part, there are also a lot to be done in our plan. Actually, we have this in our official website, but I think what I want to actually we were discussing about it on DChat during when we were having this AMA today. That is having the VM support a smart contract, because the context is that we were talking about having the some permission the PubSub, because currently subscribe function is permissionless, so anyone can subscribe to any channel. But if we want to add any like permission or any other logic into this subscribe function, then there are kind of many different choices we can go. And whichever direction we choose it might satisfy someone, but it might not satisfy other people's requirement. So the best thing to do is to have a like Turing complete VM support, such that anyone can write a smart contract to provide a get subscriber and subscribe as a service, or like a subscribe provider. Then the PubSub can use a subscribe part as a like module, and by using different subscribe module, we can have different PubSub functions without any like changes to the code itself. So then this function requires VM support. So our plan is to start supporting VM, but internally. So what we mean by internal is that we can like publish smart contract to the blockchain, but not everyone else, not everyone can do it because of, well, a lot of things, security, and because if we make it public, then we need to make sure everything works smoothly, and a lot of supporting, a lot of everything. But if we plan to start it internally and use it in some of the core function like a name service and PubSub and start from there, and then it will already be powerful enough to have a much more robust, like for example, name service and subscriber service for every developer to use. Yeah, and then if it's mature enough, we will make it like public, and just like Ethereum. But since our goal is not to replace Ethereum, we don't consider it as our like top priority to make it public.
Great, great. Let me see. So we have a couple other questions here. Actually, oh, here's one for you, Lan. This is a new one from Mutsi.
Probably we can start from the first one.
Oh, you want to start with the first one? Okay.
Yeah, because it's kind of a bit.
From Kaz. Yeah. Okay. So do you regret any mistakes made since the start of the project? What have you learned from this?
So can I say that I regret not knowing the trend of all the, like, let's say the Bitcoin, Ethereum price, and not buying them at a low point and sell them at high point?
I think we all wish we had that crystal ball that could have figured that out.
Yeah, I think, well, sometimes it's difficult to regret, right? Because nobody can predict the future. For example, like marketing and timing, right? So for example, we did our project started in January, and we did our token distribution in April and May, and we went on to exchanges in May. So, well, of course, if you're looking back, you can say, okay, maybe we should just keep the private investors' money and do the development and wait for a better time to do the token sale. But nobody can predict future, right? So I think it's difficult to say which decision is wrong or which decision is right, but it's more like you make a decision at the best knowledge of what you have at that particular moment, and then hope it will work out. So I think we have a little bit unfortunate with the Binance last year, and but other than that, I think so we kind of reached kind of the really rock bottom around November, December last year in terms of token price and also the kind of the sentiments. But I think from then on, we kind of keep on building. And so I think we deliver our products, deliver our mainnet, and deliver our exchange listing. So one by one, I think over time, I think we kind of get back to our mojo. So I don't know anything I would do differently, because I think with the circumstances and conditions at that time, I don't see any major changes what we do. But going forward, of course, I think one thing is for sure. So when you keep on working and delivering results, like both in technology and also in the products, I think eventually it will work out, right? You will have temporary kind of upsets and temporary misfortunes, but over time, I think that's what counts, right? So if you have a long-term vision and the team believe in it, the core team are very believe in it, and I think you can achieve those goals, and even if you have short-term difficulties or even setbacks. So that's kind of my take on it.
Mm-hmm. And then the next question is, to what degree is Mocha implemented currently, and is it currently utilized to block consensus? For block consensus?
Oh, yeah. So I would say it's fully implemented. I mean, really fully. All our like initial design are now implemented, and in addition, there were like tons of like security improvement, performance improvement, thanks to the intensive testing during the past few months, and for those like sleepless night, we got the network is down or something like that. But for now, I think we are kind of pretty confident and happy to say that at least I would say the 1.0 version is fully implemented.
Yeah.
We still have some plans to how to improve it in the future, both the performance and security. But the current version I consider it as a well implemented, well designed, pretty good, secure, and scalable consensus algorithm.
Yeah, I think when we announced Mocha will be cellular automata will be our building foundation for the consensus algorithm, I don't think we have like 100% confidence it will work like we should, right? Of course, we have mathematical simulations, but in the real world, you know, everything is so different.
I have confidence that it will work.
Okay, so you're always confident, Yuren.
Well, I'm confident at what I know it will work. because if something you can prove that it worked, then it will work. If you cannot prove it worked, then it might work, but might not work, right?
Okay, so I think it's probably, yeah, in math we trust. So I think that's what the fundamental thing of it. So that's good. And also just kind of give a little bit color to it. So Elon has been working with a Stanford PhD student as an intern, working on some of the enhancement to the 1.0, right? So we are already planning the kind of the improvements to 2.0 of the mainnet. So I think so the Mocha and also some of the routing and the DHT algorithm, we still have some refinements we can do. And but I think like Ewan said, Mocha works, cellular automata works, and we are happy that math proved it. And also from implementation point of view, we did not disappoint the math.
Great. So I'm going to go back to our YouTube channel. This is kind of a basic question, but I think a lot of people still have this. So how can I share my network connection and unused bandwidth? What are the benefits when I join the NKN ecosystem?
Yeah, I think the simplest way is really try to run an NKN node at home and to see for yourself. I think we have lots of kind of good tutorial about how to run it on any of the computer you have left lying around in your home. Could be an old laptop, could be a Raspberry Pi, could even be some of the compatible Wi-Fi routers or network hard disks. So by running it, actually, you will know that it helps the network to relay other people's traffic. So those traffic, it could be for DChat, could be for Tuna, could be for the CDN, if you're lucky enough to be one of the trial miners in China or somewhere else. So you already see how by sharing your unused bandwidth, you can already earn some NKN reward. So in general, we have both Alan and I have been working in the communication or networking business for a long time. So in any given minute or second, there are 50 to 60% of the network capacity is totally lost and unused, wasted. And also, unlike storage, right? So let's give an example of Filecoin or IPFS. If I pay you money to store something on their system, then you either have to guarantee it for, I don't know, 3 months or for the rest of their life, right? So it's a much harder problem to solve. But in the NKN, we only talk about the network resource. So to transmit data or the throughput, it's just ephemeral, right? So you either use it this second or they're gone, but they will regenerate. The next second you have it again. So it's something that it's actually a very attractive domain to work on. So that's the reason we think there's lots of potential in this 1.4 trillion industry. So we think if you think 50 to 60% are wasted, then you can kind of imagine how much potential this has, right? And the technology and the economic model to enable it is really built into NKN. And the more people adopt it, I think the network effect will make it more powerful. So I think we we believe that's a very good use case or domain we focus on. So again, to another question in the AMA, Binance AMA way as well. So NKN never tried to be a super general purpose kind of blockchain for everything, like a Ethereum or. So we are really focused on the kind of networking side and try to be really good at one thing very well, right? So because this is already big enough business for us, and also we see very few competitors in this space, and if there's some, they're not as good as we are. So that's the reason we think we have a good chance of making a number one in this domain.
This is about real world use cases.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that, so some of the use cases we have is, so NKN really enable a website to, so you can browse website more faster, and you can watch video more smoothly. And so that's kind of for normal users, but lots of things are behind the scenes, right? So the website will use NKN's CDN service, or the developer will use the NKN embedded kind of SDK. So the reason is then they can, for example, we have a few applications, the DChat. The DChat is, you can consider it like a Snapchat. So it's really secure one-to-one communication, or you can also do a traditional group chat as well. That's not secure, but the one-to-one, we call it the DChat Whisper. So it's a really secure, because there's no central server anywhere to store your message. And also the message is encrypted between the two clients, and also between each hops, it can be encrypted. And also we have this distributed file transfer, NKN file transfer, that can send a large amount of data or big files between any individuals. So you don't have to host your own FTP server, and also you don't have to use like a Dropbox or Pastebin or a Google Mail or Gmail to transfer the data, because all those services you have a kind of caching point or some centralized storage storing your file. So those are the kind of few things you can do already today with NKN. And also we have this NKN shell, but that's more for developers or system administrators of a service. They can use that to control remote nodes and etc. But for normal users, I think the chat and also the file transfer and also the things you don't see, but underneath, it's enabled by the Nokia NKN products.
Great. So we've covered a lot of the questions that have been in the chat so far. Let me see.
I can take one question from the Telegram group. So one person was asking, with the contracts with NetNIC, and how can we see that the money coming from the NetNIC will be converted into NKN tokens, right? So I think this is a little bit tricky question. The reason is NetNIC is a commercial entity, right? They do not want our contracts to be public, right? For example, they pay NKN X amount of dollars for a particular service. The reason is it's for the competition reasons, right? They also source the CDN service from other like Alibaba or Baidu Cloud. So that's the reason I think what we can do is try to set up some kind of governance model, say, okay, so NKN as a company provide this service, will have a very small platform fee that kind of for the transactions to enable the transaction for the development of the products, but majority of the proceeds will be distributed to the miners in NKN tokens. But we cannot have kind of transparent pricing from the contract, because that's not allowed by the NetNIC, right? So, but from the NKN token side, of course, we'll enable all transparency, so for everybody to know. And if we can have the Elon's and also the development team to do the virtual machine, I think those can be also more in a kind of smart contract format instead of arbitrarily decided by the team or anybody else. So I think it's a brand new thing, so we're still exploring. So again, we can also use the NKP process and the new kind of proposal process to figure out the best way that, so make sure that we are not like a centralized company like a Uber, but we are more like a decentralized company. So a new business model. Yeah, and I think in general, in terms of governance, I think we are kind of both pragmatic, but also kind of idealistic. Because if you look at how NKN is approaching the building the network, we make it really permissionless, right? So we don't want to say, okay, you have to apply for it, or you have to own how much amount of NKN token to run the node. So that's really the spirit of Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? So why make them quite successful? Because you don't want to go back to the centralized model. You have 20 consensus nodes, they know each other, and they decide the things for everybody. So that's not what we want to do. So that's kind of more our idealistic point of view. But from pragmatic point of view, we want to make sure that the project have a clear direction, right? So some people might criticize Vitalik Buterin for not taking more lead in Ethereum, but I think he's actually the leader, right? So even though he not like explicitly saying he's making all decisions, but I think he's had a larger influence than everybody else. I think any successful project still need a very strong leadership team to make the kind of decisions quickly and efficiently. We cannot like make it like a totally like a decentralized autonomous organization, at least not in this early stage, right? Because lots of the things are still uncertain and changing every day. We will use community process for big decisions that impact the economic model or the government for the long term, but we cannot make all the operational decisions into kind of a voting system, because voting system also have its own drawbacks, right? So that's the reason we want to be pragmatic. So in the beginning, maybe we can more like the Linux open source system, be like a benevolent dictator. So we have somebody who are really good and make decisions, but also really take into account the kind of interest of all the stakeholders, the miners, the token holders, the development team, the users. And then the key is really build the pie bigger, right? So if the project is not successful, even if everybody have a vote to vote on everything, it doesn't really make sense, right? If the project dies itself. So that's our view about governance, and that will be our guidance for the future.
Great. So we actually have a new question here. This is from Crypto Evolution. Are you working with any telecom companies in China?
So actually, directly and indirectly.
Yeah.
So Netnik also, and also the YouTube or the Chinese YouTube company, they have lots of partners who are telecom providers, like China Mobile and China Unicom and etc. So we are partner with them in that sense, because we are kind of together provide a solution to those customers. We also are talking to some carriers to get cheaper like network connectivity. So if you, for example, buy network bandwidth from a cloud provider like a Google or Amazon, they are quite expensive. You are going to pay, I don't know, 10 cents per gigabyte or something like that. I think DigitalOcean is the cheapest. It's like 1 cent per gigabyte. But still, you can do much better if you go directly to the source, who own the pipes, who own the fiber, who own the network, like the carriers and also even local service providers. So once NKN really scales and push massive amount of the content traffic, we have to go to the source of where the connectivity comes from. That means the network owners and the network operators. So that's the reason we are working with some of them to get the best price for our kind of community. So in that sense, the ideal solution is if we can find, for example, some kind of fiber operators or intercontinental network provider, they also have a hosting service, right? Because we don't want to run everything ourselves. So if they have a hosting service, the miners can actually run their mining nodes or service nodes on their hosting side with the cheapest, most direct optical fiber or wireless connection. I think that will be ideal for the miners as well, right? So that's kind of the partnership model we are looking for. We haven't signed anything yet, but that's what we're looking for.
And the next question here is also, this is actually around token utility. So are you working on more NKN token utility?
I think we have quite a bit of token utility now. Yeah. I think that the idea is really to increase the traffic running on NKN and let the token circulate more, right? So by signing a commercial agreement with Netnik, so they pay us a fiat, and we buy NKN, we pay miner might want to sell some of them to get to pay their the bills. So that will give you a virtuous cycle, right? So we want to get this cycle working. More utilities, I think this is already pretty good utility, but if you have some suggestions, we are happy to hear.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think all the applications that Bruce has been talking about in terms of NCDN and our pub sub with DChat all actually use our token to purchase services within those applications. Right. So as we get more applications on there, we'll have more opportunity to actually have utility.
Right. And also to add to that, I think one of the things good about Tuna is really, it's not about NKN running video streaming service or NKN running a proxy service or web acceleration service. So the Tuna is very good in terms of enabling a marketplace, right? So for example, Tom or Mutsi or Lucas, they have a computer at home. They can run more than the NKN node. They can run, maybe it's a game streaming, maybe they can run some machine learning computation. So today, there's not very easy way to sell that capacity, right? So by using NKN, the Tuna solution, lots of people, other people can actually use that capacity and earn some money. And then Tom and Mutsi and Lucas can earn some money for that, right? So then they come, so the ideal solution is in the future, there will be thousands or millions of NKN users or miners become the future of Salesforce, right? So it's not like one ginormous Salesforce, but there will be a Mutsi Salesforce, there will be a Tom Salesforce, and there will be Lucas Salesforce. Each of them might be small, but there's lots of them. So that's, I think, it's a more healthy kind of marketplace that the software service provider is not a few giant companies.
So the next question here is about marketing plans. So what are the marketing plans for NKN in the upcoming future?
So the marketing plan, I think, especially I think with Binance, I think we really know that in the crypto space for good marketing, it's very important to work with a kind of really good exchange. So Binance is really good in terms of, so they are not only kind of its exchange itself, but really build a community, right? So when we go to different Binance community to do AMA, you can find actually the quality of the questions are really high. So I believe that by going together with Binance to do the AMA, and maybe in the future, if we have the chance to do the joint meetups in different local communities and a hackathon, etc., that would be very good. So that's on the crypto side. And also, Alan probably have shown you before our kind of partnership map in terms of Web 3.0 with many different crypto projects, right? So we do cross promotion, we do joint hackathons, we do joint meetups. So that's kind of another part in the crypto space. Mm-hmm. But then if you look beyond that, I think you look at the bigger world, right? We always say we want to swim in the ocean, we don't want to swim in the fish tank. So then you're really competing with the big companies like Akamai, the Amazon Web Service, and Cloudflare. So to marketing for that kind of audience or that kind of market, then we probably have to use the more traditional media. And so I think one of the key things we find out is really have one or two big and kind of really help like a very happy customer. They can be your kind of reference and they can be your evangelizer, right? So that's the reason we spend lots of effort both in China and the US, try to really serve those a few good customers, big customers really well. So they will become our champion. And then the rest will, the other company will look at those companies, say, okay, if they believe in the NCDN solution, if they believe in NKN technology, then we should be fine as well. And that's one. The other one is really developer focused. So many of the smaller websites, smaller content owners, and if they want to use NCDN, if they want to use PubSub, if they want to Tuna, so quite often we want to make it very simple, like and also free to start in trial. So the freemium model, I think, is really where I think we are looking into it. So once you get adoption and word of mouth, people actually using it, that's the best marketing, right? So once I asked Elon, what's the best marketing for developers? And Elon said, well, developers don't really look at advertisement all day. They don't actively looking for advertisement. So the best way is you have a solution solve their problem. So when a developer have a problem, they will type Google search pub/sub service, right? So if you can move up to the top of that Google search, if you have enough kind of recognition by the developer, say, okay, we know there's a PubNub, that's a company. We know there's a Google service, and we know there's a PubSub by NKN. Those actually works well, and there's example applications, there are successful applications. That's the word of mouth you want, and that's kind of segment you want to have push. So from marketing to that segment, I think it's not so much about throwing money into publicity, but more about winning those kind of the developer by both free trials as well as addressing those developer community in the DigitalOcean, in the IoT space, in the Google Cloud, and all those places. So we have maybe about another 8 minutes, and then we close today. Because I think Elon also needs some sleep, and we have a big day tomorrow. So we all want to be ready for the vote and more work tomorrow.
So
there's one more question.
Let's take this other question from our Zoom. So the question is there any timeline for .NET support? I know there were libraries for Space Cats, but I believe they're no longer being maintained.
Yeah. So Space Cat was created by Insider and also a team of him during a hackathon. And well, yeah, he's not working on the C# library for quite a long time because I think he's got like more high priority things to do. But yeah, I agree. It will always be better to have a C# client there and running Space Cat than nothing, right? Yeah, I'm not sure what would be the time, but well, I hope it can be done as soon as possible.
So is Space Cat open source or is closed source?
Its most part is open source, but the asset, like the art part is not open source, but the rest are open source.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah. So I think we have been saying the two simple reasons. One is we're the largest blockchain in terms of full consensus nodes, and so I think really unique in the blockchain space, and we are more nodes than Ethereum and Bitcoin. The second point is we have some real good products that already have commercial traction. So the CDN products, we have signed commercial contract with Netnik, one of the biggest kind of cloud integrator in China with 100,000 customers, enterprise customers. And also we have many customer-friendly products as well. We have the DChat, we have the decentralized FTP, and we have the N-Shell and some games as well. So anything that needs to transmit data from one side to another can utilize our technology. And we are really addressing a $1.4 trillion business, right? So the networking business. And we're uniquely positioned in this industry, and we are very focused, and we think we are the best in this unique domain. So those are the reasons I think why we need to vote for NKN.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So Elon, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, that's it. And thanks, Tom, for did you say Tom's message?
Yes. Thank you so much, Tom, Matsu, Matsi. And everybody that was on the YouTube chat, thank you so much for participating.
Right.
In this, I'm sorry we had to change rooms and do a couple extra things here, but hopefully we got your questions answered. And we'll be posting this video on our YouTube for people that missed it.
Yeah.
so please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check it out.
Yes. And I just saw on the YouTube, we have Imran joining. So Imran is actually, his community name is Ismo. He has been helping us with all the nice graphics with NKN.ORG in different countries and go to vote posters. And so I want to shout out to Ismo, and who actually, all the beautiful design work you have seen. And now I say hello to you, and that's in our office and our mascot, and I'll be a lucky charm for tomorrow. So everybody online, if you watch us, and please vote for NKN. I think we are a great team, and we have a great technology, but also great commercial potentials. So that's so tomorrow. I think the time is UTC is 4 a.m. in the morning, starting from the 10th October, which is noon in Beijing, and I think it's 9 p.m. in the US Pacific time. And the vote will open for 24 hours, and you'll get rewards actually. So if you vote for NKN, you'll earn the BNB airdrop as well as the NKN airdrop, quite large amount. So please support us, and also you'll get some nice reward as well. So let's vote for NKN, and hope to see you on Binance soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.